Hello, everyone. My name is Quentin Ayers. I am doing my presentation on descriptive statistics and how we can affect in a biblical sense, ethical issues, talk about the importance, a little brief history, just kind of going through the aspects of descriptive statistics and how we can apply them in a biblical sense and use it in Jesus's way of how he wants us to act and what we do for people. So the introduction. So descriptive statistics refers to a branch of statistics that involves summarizing, organizing, and presenting data meaningfully and concisely. It focuses on describing and analyzing a data set's main features and characteristics without making any generalizations or inferences or larger populations. And the primary goal of descriptive statistics is to provide a clear and concise summary of the data, enabling research to do analysis to gain insights and understand patterns, trends, distributions within the data set. This summary typically includes measures such as central tendencies, like examples mean, median, mode, dispersions, standard deviations, those kind of things. It also involves a graphical representation of data through charts, tables, and other sort of visualization aids. Common graphical techniques include histograms, bar charts, pie charts, scatter plots, and box plots. And by employing these statistics, researchers can effectively summarize, communicate the key characteristics of data sets, facilitating better understanding of the data and providing foundation for further statistical analysis or decision making. So here's a little brief history. Sir Ronald Amer Fisher is the father of statistics. He was born in 1890 in London, England. He studied mathematics and astronomy at the University of Cambridge. He then continued his education in the study of air, which that was fathered by Carl Friedrich Gauss. And he was also father of normal distribution as well. Fisher and his experiments were trying to get a way to alleviate bias. That's what kind of his main thing was, is he wanted to eliminate any sort of bias or any sort of technical issues with his experiments. He didn't want something to be so popular and one thing not be. So then he led into the process of normalization, which Fisher taught high school mathematics and physics from 1914 until 1919, while continuing his research in statistics and genetics. He was a big guy in evolution as well. He, as he was going through his life, you could say, he was really bouncing back and forth of finding out his statistics and his mathematics. He also introduced the principle of randomization. This principle states that before an effect in an experiment can be ascribed to a given cause or treatment independently or other causes or treatments. The experiment must be repeated on a number of control units of the material, and that units of material used in experiments must be randomly selected samples from the whole population. And then we get into variance. He was also another one on variance. Even more important achievement was his variance. The statistical procedure enabled experiments to answer several questions at once. Fisher's principal idea was to arrange an experiment as a set of partitioned sub-experiments that differ from each other in one or more of the factors treatments applied in them. By permitting differences, their outcome to be attributed to the different factors or combinations of factors by means of statistical analysis. These sub-experiments constituted a notable advance over the prevailing procedure of varying one other factor. This also can be traced back to John Gaunt and William Petty, laying the groundwork for the statistical analysis in academia. That is pretty important because a lot of stuff in academia is based on statistics nowadays. So this is kind of something that we can kind of bridge the gap on. Then some benefits. Descriptive statistics give us the advantage of taking a large population or sample and taking that information to make it summarizations of the data. So mean, median, mode, we can find these sort of transitions, these large amounts of data, and put them into finite numbers. Also, central tendency is taking data to find averages, trends, median, modes, and the data as well. We can also find the variability as well of these data sets, how many times that one number presents itself or a specific number that doesn't present itself. So we can find different types of numbers, data sets like males, females, like which ones are presented more, which ones are presented less, and how we can use this data to figure out a way to prevent bias and make it more of the data itself understandable. This will, and then you can see using these type of statistical properties, visualization could make it more reasonable for data to be portrayed and understood. So as you can see on the in this visual here, that we have data on the left, and it's all kind of laid out in a little spreadsheet. And then if you see that stuff can be translated and put into visualizations. These visualizations are easy for presentations for people that are not quite so understanding what data means. This is where the statistician comes in, and he clarifies and identifies where we can specify the data and make it more easier and legible for people that don't quite understand statistics. So this leads us into a big thing called ethics. So ethical issues can be found in descriptive statistics in many facets. It is, as you can see in the presentation or the visual on the side, misuse of statistics, like faulty pooling, flawed correlations, data fishing, misleading data visualizations, purposeful and selective bias, percentage changes, truncating on axis, strategically picking the time period, and Simpson's paradox. One of the popular ones is skewing data to benefit the company or competitors. This can be found in data ranges, leaving out some specific significant numbers as well. Another one is data is also variedly used in science and analytical analysis. So we can totally manipulate data in science and other things. We need to really hone it in and figure out, like, be more specific with data. That is a big one, is because if we're not accurate with our statistics, a lot of numbers and a lot of information can be skewed. Another thing with that ethics is these numbers and data can be used to exploit people and consumers about purchasing habits. In other words, data analysis is essentially statistics. These statistics can determine how someone thinks, what they believe, where they live, how much they make, who their family is, age, social security, etc. Biased data collection can also be used and taken into consideration. Numbers do not always lie. It's just, however, they can be misleading, which is a big thing with ethical issues, about how we can manipulate data to say what we want it to say and not what it means. Politicians are big examples of this, of how they take specific data and statistics and can mislead the general population about certain ideas. So here is an ethical example that's not so good. The FDA approved of a drug called Oxycontin, and this data here shows about people kind of on opioids and how many people were on the opioid and how, like, it benefited them rather than and became an addiction, which was a cause of the opioid pandemic. In other words, that these figures here on the right were misled. So the one on the left is a log graph, which makes it look closer, and that the data isn't quite always shown. It's correct, but it's a visualization that's misleading, that people don't quite catch on if they're not aware of the statistical visualization differences. And the one on the right is the actual statistics, to where you can see that there's a large hump in difference in people being affected and not affected, and people being addicted. So here's some biblical perspective. So Christian interpretation slowly gets lost in science and STEM. Some philosophers, scientists, engineers, and many others believe that God is science and that his amazing work is found in science. Science has been coined as the proof that God and faith do not exist usually. That's been kind of something that people don't quite understand, that he is science, like he is what we are today. This is a very false action because the world is too perfect and not to be a creator. This is something I firmly believe in, that we are almost too perfect in life and everything that science is making it seem that we came from evolutionary theory. No, it's about where we came from someone who of a higher power. And from the Florence Nightingale, to understand God's thoughts, one must study statistics, for these are the measures of his purpose. So more on honesty and integrity. These are things widely discussed in the Bible and can be applied in maintaining ethical practice in business statistics. So the book of Proverbs 2:20-21 states, "So you will walk in the way of the good and keep the paths of the righteous. For the upright will inhabit in the land, and those with integrity will remain in it." Proverbs 28:18, "Whoever walks in integrity will be delivered, but he who is crooked in those ways will suddenly fall." So this is like in the Bible, people are trying to be honest. God and Jesus wants us to be honest and have integrity with the people and his children that we are, and that we are supposed to help people that are less fortunate, and we are people that need to be combined as one. A little bit more is Luke 16:12 states, "And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own?" This has impacted me greatly. I think about it all the time because I always think, what would I want with my things that other people would? Like, in other words, like, how would you want to be treated is how you should treat others. It's kind of very synonymous there. And God entrusts that we can control our destiny and our given free will. Deceiving facts, data, and information to go to the public people goes against the Christian faith and what it means to be humbled by God. We believe he gave us one of the most incredible emotions and feelings. Love is a power that can be unmatched. His love for us is so powerful that we have no fear that he will cast us out. So that leads to the question, why should we as followers cast others out or deceive others? So kind of to conclude this all, is descriptive statistics is a powerful tool that we can use to take large amounts of data and information and then turn them into simple visualizations and numbers to use that information in the real world. Ethical analysis is also just as critical. Proper statistic ethics are critical because significant and crucial decisions are made on some of these statistics. Lastly, as Christians, we are to never to deceive. Even if it was to benefit us or the company, we should never be unethical. We are in charge of large amounts of data that we can help people, and let us help them, so because they cannot always help themselves. So we as statisticians, data collectors, all that stuff, we need to be more in tune with God and let us benefit or use his will for others and help others, and then be honest at the same time. Some of my references. Thank you. Have a good day.